so much indeed for joining us. The spokesperson, APC Presidential Campaign Council, San Festus Keyamo. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.
Thank you.
Let's begin with a quick fact check of some of the issues that have been raised, especially ones that has to do with the APC. The security question, for instance, on the 26th of February 2015 at Chatham House, that's the Royal Institute of International Studies, the world would have no cause to worry about Nigeria if voted into power. Those are the words of President Muhammadu Buhari. Today, the world is more worried about Nigeria's insecurity than it was in 2015. Evaluate that for us.
Well, we can take a whole 1 hour to evaluate this, but like I said, the details can be provided by the spokespersons of the government. Now, I'm a Minister of Labour. People like Lai Mohammed will give you the full details. This interview is basically about the 2023 presidential campaign of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu and Shetima. But however, I'll just let you know that if you listen to the World Press Conference granted, I think yesterday or so, by the Minister of Information, together, I think, with the Minister of Interior and together with the Minister of, Police Affairs or Minister of Defense, they gave a full update on the security situation in Nigeria. And if you go back to that interview, you will see the full details of that interview, and to tell you that the situation has improved significantly over the last few months, since at least we have the attack on the correctional center.
So let's take a notch further and look at some of the issues that are of grave concerns for Nigerians. For instance, how do you respond to the threats of bandits in Nigeria?
Well, the threat of banditry arose after we had successfully pushed back the Boko Haram insurgents, not completely wiped them out, we pushed them back. Actually, we successfully curtailed the issue of the farmers' herders crisis, not completely wiped them out, but curtailed them significantly. And then that issue arose. Government has been paying attention to it over the last 1 year or so, and I can tell you that so many measures have been put in place to curtail them. The activities would eventually reduce and almost peter out. And by the time, I'm confident, by the time that we are handing over in 2023, the issue of banditry will be significantly reduced.
Okay, but at some point, you remember the threats that came to President Muhammadu Buhari still on this insecurity when the bandits said they would kidnap or abduct. That's the word they used, to abduct the president. And did you perhaps believe that your party saw that as being comedic about the whole situation?
Well, it ended up being a comedy, really, because some of them who tried to come close to Abuja, they were wiped out within 2 days. And I'm sure you know, more than 30 of them were killed around the law school. Those ones who dared come close to Abuja at all. It's not that Abuja is the only safe territory in Nigeria, or we should consider Abuja as the only safe territory in Nigeria. But to say that you will come and kidnap the head of state or the president and commander-in-chief, it sounded like comedy. Like I said, those ones even didn't come close to Abuja before they were wiped out.
Now, there are concerns also, these are just fact-checkings. There are concerns also that Nigeria is slowly being turned into herdsman states, as it were. The same herdsmen that have been a thorn in the flesh of Nigerians over the past 10 years, even before this administration started. But do you feel that the question of herdsmen and giving them a home in Nigeria is appropriate?
Well, I don't know whether you're talking of herdsmen generally or killer herdsmen, because herdsmen are different from killer herdsmen. Herdsmen are part of the economic landscape of Nigeria. They are traders and they are businessmen like every other person. So I don't think it is even right to profile herdsmen or to put a ring of criminality around their necks. Herdsmen like that, like every other person doing their normal businesses in Nigeria. If you're talking about killer herdsmen, those who go around with AK-47 and all of that. President Muhammad Buhari said consistently over the last 7 years, if any of them anybody is seen with that type of weapon, the person should be dealt with severely. So the issue of the ones who also attack farmers and farmers defending themselves, the president has, the government rolled out a comprehensive program to address that, which is the National Livestock Transformation Program. And that program is hugely successful now in the few states that have adopted that program so far.
Okay, let's fact check on the issue of corruption very quickly, just before we get to delve into the main issues that we're set out to look at. Would you consider the notion, especially coming from the PDP, that data from the humanitarian ministry to show how the spendings went to beneficiaries of those several humanitarian relief projects, the failure to produce those data, do you think it's a major concern that the APC should address?
Well, I know my sister, who is the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, I know my sister is normally a very prudent, hardworking lady, and I'm sure that's her portfolio, that's not my portfolio. I'm sure at the appropriate time she can answer, questions regarding that. I wish I was also the spokesman of the government, so I would have gotten the data from her. But she will be in the best position to answer some of those questions.
So let's now zero down to your own portfolio. The PWP program, SPW, my apologies, the SPW program that was under your own purview.
Yes.
Over 40 billion was released for that.
Yes.
Am I right?
Yes.
You were also unable to provide data for that.
No. When? At what point?
The APC has alleged that.
APC?
The PDP has alleged now that, the PDP has alleged.
You are talking like one of the spokesmen of the PDP.
No.
That confuses PDP and APC all the time.
No.
Well, let me answer you.
Hold on. The PDP has alleged that you were unable to provide the data for the beneficiaries of that.
At what point?
Program.
At what point? Who asked for it?
They said that there was a hearing.
There was no hearing.
There was
no hearing
from the legislators.
No, there was no hearing.
There was a panel that was set up.
No, there was no
legislators.
There was no panel set up to go into asking for details. They are very satisfied. The chairman of both the House and the Senate, they are extremely satisfied. Did you
provide the data for them?
If they ask, they follow the program. They are part of the program. They were part of the and parcel of the execution of the program, and they oversighted it effectively. The earlier misunderstanding was not as to data. We are not even implemented at that time, so it couldn't have been data. We're only looking at the modus operandi to execute it. And so there was some misunderstanding as to how to go about executing it. But after execution of it, and I heard some characters who said they were mixing things up and said they set up a panel, nobody could provide data. I know before you come on television and come on camera, you must get your facts correctly. You don't come on television and talk trash to members of the public. So hold on. Okay. What happened? What is the situation now? Is that we executed the program. The name, phone number, bank account, BVN of every beneficiary, every single payment, and that is because of my background of probity, because of my background as an EFCC prosecutor, because of my background in civil society, because of my background as a lawyer who had fought for accountability. I made sure that my program, the one under my belt, was not the one that will go and give out cash, that will be made in controversy, that you cannot trace monies. So as I speak with you, the data is available. Every single payment, every single name, bank account, and BVN. So every payment can be traced to the end, to the last person, and they are available at the National Directorate of Employment. If you live here now as I speak and work there as a journalist, it will be made available to you.
That's good to know. But let's look at the economy now, just to fact check also on that. The next president, that possibly Tinubu, for Nigeria, will be faced with 27.7 trillion naira of debt to pay.
That is still 22.5% of our GDP. So we are still doing far, far better because the World Bank says don't do beyond 55%. And for us as a nation, we have also set a target of 40% that we will never do beyond 40% of our GDP, our debt to GDP ratio, our debt to GDP ratio. So we will not do, as I speak with you, we are the best, about the best of all the giants of Africa. South Africa is doing about 80%, which has exceeded the World Bank ceiling. Tunisia is doing about 70%. They have exceeded it. Ghana has exceeded. Almost all the big countries. Kenya too, the giant of East Africa. It's only the giant of West Africa, Nigeria, that is doing so exceedingly well in managing our debt burden, because the whole world, the entire world is borrowing right now. But we have been able to do ours prudently. And guess what? Most of our borrowings have gone for capital projects.
Capital projects, one of which will be that of the railways.
The railways, for example.
The same project is the one that the World Bank says that Nigeria has almost 10 times doubled the cost of building, say, for instance, 1 kilometer of rail. Because
they are not alleging corruption in so doing. Don't forget that. It's because of our terrain. If you build railway, for example, in a place like Lebanon, build to Lebanon, hard floor, no marshy ground, no water, no bridges to cross.
So it's not a sign of corruption?
No, it's not a sign. It's just a sign of the terrain, the type of terrain. The cost of building a rail line, for example, from in waterlogged areas in Nigeria, which is even what some of these rail lines we experience now, the ones going from Lagos all the way to Kano. In some places, you have to stop and build bridges. Don't forget that. For the rails to cross, to build bridges. So it is really nonsensical for anybody to just take a figure in another part of the world and put it, side by side with a figure in Nigeria, and then you now say, oh, compare these figures for 1 kilometer or 2 kilometers. No, that is not, that's a lazy way to compare figures. You must also compare the terrain.
That brings us now to the APC candidates running for President, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who has been under the spotlight for some time now and has been playing in politics. As a matter of fact, some have alleged that his records are not clean way back from 1998 and have questioned why has the authorities not searched Tinubu himself. Most of those cases were acquitted in court. But one still stands, and that has to do with his certificate. Can you tell us more about that?
Well, I don't think there's so much controversy over this. Most of what you hear is nothing but media hype. I can tell you that because I was involved. And that is also the controversy you hear at times that, oh, Keyamo sued him sometime in 1999, that Keyamo sued Tinubu over his certificates. That is completely wrong because I am in the know. I'm in the know because at that time, I also took the Lagos House of Assembly to court because I said they had no powers to conduct criminal hearings, to investigate criminal allegations, because the allegations were in the nature of a crime. So I said, look, you don't have a right to, because at that time, we were in our 20s. We challenged every single infraction in court. Just like I also went to court sometime years ago to challenge the powers of the service, the president to appoint service chiefs without the concurrence of the National Assembly. It has been my nature to go to court to test some of these issues. But you cannot translate that as an attack on Jonathan, for example, at that time, who was president. I was just testing the law. And so the issue of the certificate has been laid to rest because the Chicago State University that he claims to have gone to, or that he claimed at that time, has come out repeatedly over and over and again, and even classmates who attended the same school with him, they have come out to say, yes, he went to Chicago State University. And don't forget, I want to tell you a very important point. These issues arose before 2003. Don't forget that. The issues and controversies surrounding those certificates arose before 2003. And so, because of the desperation of the PDP to take over the Southwest at that time, it would have been very easy to stop him from contesting the 2003 elections, because he ran for a second term in 2003. So if those issues were disqualifying issues, why was he not stopped in 2003? So that alone tells a lot about the falsity of some of those claims. I say falsity because I went to court, and I am the one, that's why I said I am proud to be his chief spokesman today for his campaign, because there is no better person to tell the story than the person who was part of the controversy at that time. I was in nick of the at the heart of the controversy at that time. I've heard some people, and allow me to say this, please. I've heard some people say that, oh, well, they read from some books, some law reports, saying that some portions of the law report saying that I accuse him of certificate forgery. Go and look at the law reports. This is the chambers where we cooked that case. Go and look at the law reports. Go and read the lead judgment in that law report.
Are you saying that you did not do any such?
Hold on. Go and read the lead judgment in that law report. Ask every member of the law school, every small student of the law school, what do you rely on in a judgment? You rely on the lead judgment of the Supreme Court. You don't rely on the briefings or the reportage by the lawyers who write the reports. I was an editor of the weekly law reports. And that weekly law report is Ganifa Emi's report, just to let you know. I was one of the editors of the weekly law reports. And before you publish the judgment, you must do like what they call a summary of the judgment. That is your own opinion, your own reportage of the judgment. Nobody in his right senses will come out in public, and a lawyer for that matter, to be reading reportage of a judgment without reading the lead judgment itself. And that is why when we go to court, and judges, when you go to court, the judges will stop you when you are reading from reportage. They will tell you, go to the lead judgment and read the lead judgment. Let me tell you why. Because it is only the lead judgment that all the justices of the Supreme Court contribute to. Even the supporting judgments are not the judgment of the court, because all the justices, they don't read the supporting judgments. All of them will read only the lead judgment. So if there's any error in the lead judgment, they correct that error, because they always adopt that lead judgment as theirs. So you don't rely on supporting judgments. You don't rely on the reportage. You rely on the lead judgment. Go and read the lead judgment. There's nowhere in the lead judgment, and I challenge anybody walking on 2 feet to come and point out anywhere in the lead judgment where we made any kind of allegation against Bola Ahmed Tinubu. But then the second point I also want to make, and most importantly too, is that as a lawyer who knows his onions, the moment the Supreme Court pronounces on an issue, it is your duty to defend that judgment of the Supreme Court. And it is binding on you, even if you lose at the court. It's binding on you as a lawyer. So it does not make any sense tomorrow to now begin to whip, a dead horse after you have lost at the Supreme Court. The judgment now becomes your own to defend. And
Why
that
is
is
the
what
case?
I'm defending.
Why is the
again.
case coming up today?
The third one is just because of politics, nothing more. The third and most important one is that when you fight these cases in courts, you don't fight them because of hatred or bitterness. You just fight them to know the truth. You don't fight them because of self-aggrandizement. So if anybody thinks that 22 years later or 20 years later, I will still have that kind of resentment in me by which I took the House of Assembly to court, assuming it was even anything that is accusatorial, that person must have his head examined. 22 years later, that I will still have that kind of resentment. We've moved on since the court had laid that matter to rest. And then I want to thank some of these people who are raising the issues now. It shows that we have a rich history of challenging. Even at a young age, I was in my 20s. When I was going to court on every constitutional infraction. I was marching on the streets. We were arrested. You followed me all the way. You and the entire country followed me from 20s up till now. We were arrested, we were detained, we were charged to court, just like Bola Tinubu. Like Asiwaju went through all the crises during the June 12 too. We also went through that crisis. Where are some of these characters now? So when we speak now, we speak with this rich history and this moral fiber behind us. And that is why, perhaps because of my involvement in that, and because I have a rich knowledge of what happened, the tactician called Asiwaju also zeroed on me. He zeroed on me to lead this campaign, because there's no better person to tell the story than myself. I am proud to defend Asiwaju today. I'm extremely excited to be at the forefront to tell people that there was nothing about the certificate. It was all a storm in a teacup.
Okay.
Nothing.
Still on Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu,
Yes.
of course, you must have heard on social media or even mainstream media about some, comments that were made about him saying that he didn't actually build Lagos State. Lagos State was already pre-existing even before he became governor of Lagos State. Why do you think that this, perception, this supposition that he built Lagos State came up
Let me tell
when
you.
what he did was basically to collect taxes?
Let me tell you the myopia about that comment. And sometimes when you say nonsense in a confident manner, in a smooth manner, people will fail to understand the nonsense, see the nonsense in what you are saying. So some of these people say nonsense in a confident manner, and then you fail to see the nonsense in what they are saying. The summary of what they are saying is that leadership does not matter. That all you need is a state where you have the necessary infrastructure, like maybe the ports. They always say, well, the ports have always been there to develop Lagos. Some other things have been there. Some other infrastructure have been there. All you need to do is just to walk into Lagos as a governor, and then Lagos will begin to grow on its own. That is nonsense if you look at it really. And these are the same people who aspire to lead now, who tell Nigerians that the bane of Nigeria has been leadership. It's the same people, though. Now they come to Lagos and they say leadership does not matter. But when it comes to Nigeria, they say leadership is the bane of Nigeria. But then the person who has provided leadership for Lagos in the last 23 years does not matter. Are you seeing that they're saying nonsense? It's nonsense, but they're saying nonsense in a confident manner. Now, I will tell them what they don't know. The federal government began to exit Lagos in 1990 after the Oka coup. So let me take them down, historical lane. When the federal government was in Lagos up to the time, that's the presidency of Babangida, up to April 22nd, 1990, when Oka struck the coup. It was a failed coup. Immediately after, because of the ease with which the coupists got access into Dodan barracks, it was now necessary to move the presidency from Lagos. So Babangida relocated to the villa here, to Abuja, to Asorok. Immediately Babangida exited. All the departments of government began to exit one by one. So that as of 1992-93, almost all the institutions of federal institutions have almost all relocated to Abuja, and all the federal government workers too. So Lagos now began to look like a ghost town. And so federal government now began to neglect Lagos. And so Lagos began to collapse really in terms of infrastructure between 1992, 93, 94, and on like that. And of course, the June 12 struggle also helped to quicken the deterioration of Lagos because of the politics of it at that time, Lagos was virtually abandoned. They saw it as a Yoruba cause and all of that. So by 1999, when Asiwaju took over, Lagos was an abandoned federal territory. For those who don't know, for those who are pushing that narrative. And so, even though the federal infrastructure that were there, or natural infrastructure, natural ones like the ports and all of that, it could have been easy for Lagos to collapse entirely because federal government, there was no federal presence. And again, it was at the same time, of course, look at the South states, where you have oil. You have also water too. You have waterways too in the South region. Don't forget that too. And then oil companies were, in full existence in the South states at that time. Compare Lagos between then and now. Lagos and the South states that have been majorly ruled by the PDP, the South states. You know that? From Bayelsa to Delta to Akwa Ibom to, and all of that.
Absolutely.
Good. All the oil companies, because of insecurity, have all left the South states. There's no nightlife again in Warri and all those environs. Even Port Harcourt has come down a bit. The nightlife and all those because of insecurity. The oil companies have left. Infrastructure is decaying in the South states, especially my state, Delta State. Lagos has continued to grow by leaps and bounds. Now, what these people are saying in effect is that leadership, they have not heard the phrase that a leader can harness resources, or the sentence that a leader can harness resources. They have not heard that sentence before. That resources, they don't just exist in a place. You need a good leader to harness these resources for growth and for development. And that is what Asiwaju, did. We're not saying Asiwaju went to bring the port to Lagos. We're not saying Asiwaju went to bring other infrastructure, other landmarks or so, to Lagos. It is just the ability to harness these resources for growth and development.
What remarkable achievements did he make in Lagos?
Now we can begin from today till tomorrow, but let me begin to list all of them one by one. In the documentary they just shown, now they were even talking about the Eco-Atlantic, where Asiwaju virtually turned a raging river into a huge city, one of the most sought after cities now. In West Africa, the Eco-Atlantic city. That story has been told over and over in the last few weeks, and I don't need to repeat them over again. But in terms of governance of Lagos in particular, do you know Asiwaju was the first to digitalize the tax administration of Lagos State, and that is why the tax went up, the IGRO went up significantly. One other thing somebody has said about that, some people said about that, is that, it was because he had an interest now in collecting taxes. That is why the thing went up in the first place. I mean, that sounds really, really, permit my language, silly. Because you are now saying that you have to cut your nose to spite your face. You are saying that if somebody is earning 200 naira, for instance, and somebody comes to you to say, look, I can make it 10 million. All you need to do is to give me 5% of that 10 million. But you will earn 10 million instead of 200 naira. And the next thing you will say is that this person wants to eat my money. How can I give him 5%? The person is virtually asking for 500,000 because 10% of 10 million is 500,000. That's what I'm saying. So at that point, you can still go home as a human being with 9.5 million naira instead of the 200,000 you were receiving before. Am I right? You can still go home with 9.5. So the person has significantly raised your revenue, but he's only asking for a token for his effort at doing so.
Is that what Tinubu is doing in Lagos?
No. That is what they alleged. That's what they alleged. But then we had experts who also came in to help to increase it. We have said over and over again, and the allegation has been that, he has an interest in such companies and all that. But nobody has been able to link anything to him till today. But the point I'm making in all of this submission is that if you want to raise revenues and you need experts to help you to do so, why would you run away from it? Why would you say that, some people will earn as a result of raising the revenue, that is why I will not concede, or I will not allow them to raise the revenues? So, that argument is actually a silly argument. Now, you also know that Asiwaju was also the first to introduce what they call the economic summit in Lagos. And many other states are doing the economic summit now. You can know the popular Kaduna economic summit and other states where experts will be brought in on an annual basis to brainstorm as to how to raise the revenues of the state and how to even improve the state economically. Lagos started that initiative. And today, almost all states are doing that. Lagos was also the first under Tinubu to start the single treasury account, which of course is the greatest means to fight corruption. So it is the federal government that even learnt that trick from Lagos State to say, look, the best way is not to allow MDAs to begin to earn money and spend it the way they like. And then they now give the balance, they pay the balance to the state account or to the federation account as they do now in the federation. Everything should come into a single treasury account. And from there, you can then now disburse funds as you like. But it was Lagos that started that initiative. Lagos under Tinubu was the first to start the access to justice. Before, the court system, the administration of justice system in Lagos was almost comatose. So much so that in terms of even the infrastructure of Lagos State and the civil procedure rules, the access to justice itself, what they call the ADRO now, the alternative dispute resolution system, was non-existent. And that was championed by our able Vice President Osinbajo as the Attorney General of Lagos State. And that was the, template that the entire nation now came to benefit and borrow from. So Asiwaju achieved so many firsts in Lagos State. In fact, the whole of the shoreline, they were talking about, like I said, the Eco-Atlantic. That's not enough. And I saw the documentary when our, great leader was also talking about the Civic Center. He forgot that it's not only the Civic Center. He forgot. It's the entire shoreline of Ozumba Mbadiwe, all the way Ozumba Mbadiwe, starting from the barracks all the way to, the Lekki corridor. That the whole of that shoreline before was abandoned. The whole of that shoreline. But look, that shoreline has now become, a hot, property. The whole of that shoreline. Because it was Asiwaju that saw it, that saw the vision, that this we can do. Go and look at the shoreline too, at Queen's Drive now. That shoreline was not what you would never even think that was something possible before. But drive into Queen's Drive now, I live around there too, my house is around there. So I know the transformation that has taken place around the Queen's Drive over the years. Go and see what is happening along that shoreline now, which is Oyiko and Bayomi. Go and see what is happening there now. It is just leadership. It is vision. It is the Asiwaju story of Lagos State.
Well, when you talk about leadership, I like it the way you're bringing it home now.
Yes.
You're talking about leadership. Can you really divorce or separate Asiwaju from the APC?
Asiwaju is APC and APC is Asiwaju. But don't forget too that APC also exists in Lagos State. So when people say APC, we are proud of the federal government's record and the areas they have done well. But we are also proud of the Lagos State government's record. So you must, both ways Asiwaju will win. If you want to talk about the federal efforts, if you want to talk about the Lagos State effort, you can't say, people say, Asiwaju has held down Lagos for too long. And that is the criticism against Asiwaju, you know that. He held down Lagos for too long. He's a dictator. But when it comes to reaping the benefit of how Lagos has grown, you say, no, it's not him. It's not him. The other governors that came after him. Come on, we should be consistent about what we say about Asiwaju. We should be consistent. We should not seek to deny him, of the benefits of his support for governments in Lagos State, his supervision of his blueprints for Lagos State, and then ascribe only, the negatives, to him. Now, for instance, under him, they said the local government funds in Lagos were held for a long time, for more than 2 years, because he sought to create development, more local governments, which they denied him. And of course, then he now turned them to development areas. It was that bulk of funds that Yar'Adua released to him, to Lagos State when he left, that Fashola was able to take off with. Fashola's government. And so it was also his effort, his initiative, his blueprints that Fashola just flowed into. Now Fashola, at the right time when the campaigns begin, he will come and tell you about his experience and how he flowed into that blueprint too. It's just to show you that from government after government in Lagos, you will not see one governor that has come out to say, Asiwaju, I am departing from your template. Asiwaju, I am not, it was not Asiwaju's effort. We need to hear from the horse's mouth. Are you crying more than bereaved? Some of them said, he held the House of Assembly to ransom in Lagos State for too long. And then that is why he's a dictator and all of that. Tell me which governor in Nigeria today, since 1999, that has not been accused of manipulating his House of Assembly.
No, they didn't call him a dictator. They called him a godfather.
Yes.
And that godfatherism seems to be working against him, especially for party members of the APC in Lagos State.
No, it is working for him. You see, the ring of godfatherism has both a negative connotation. It can have a negative connotation and a positive connotation. In the case of Asiwaju, it is a positive connotation. There is no politician in Nigeria now that is not envious. I'm not using the word jealous, so I'm using the word advisedly. Jealous has a negative ring to it, but envious, I want to be like you. That is not envious of how Asiwaju has piloted the affairs of Lagos, even outside government, in the sense that he has supported, just like every Nigerian, he has a right to support a government or not to support. You cannot deny him that right. You cannot say, well, you are too big not to support, or you are too big to support a government. Asiwaju has not hidden the fact that he supports certain governors to emerge. And by luck, it's not because he is God. It's just by divine grace that those he supported have emerged. Those he has not supported have left. It's by divine grace. He's not God. Who will not be envious of that? There are other governors in Nigeria who have supported successors, and the successors have not emerged. So it is not automatic that a governor supports somebody and the person emerges. It's to show perhaps his good heart, perhaps his vision and good intention for the people of Lagos State. That is why they have continued to trust APC to today. Look, Lagos is a very critical mass of voters, like you have in Kano and some of these big cities. They are very critical. I can assure you that if Asiwaju has not done well for Lagos, he would have lost Lagos. APC would have lost Lagos. But APC, which of course is a transmutation from the AD to the ACA to the ACN, has held Lagos since 1999. And the people of Lagos have continued to trust the APC. Those who come on television and look at the cameras and begin to say he's not done well or he's not, the simple, thermometer to test that whether he has done well or not, or the barometer, is to look at the votes of Lagos. They have always trusted him. So you cannot, with one vote, sit down in Abuja and begin to rant against the people of Lagos State. They have always trusted Asiwaju. And then don't forget that Asiwaju's Lagos has not always been in government. In the heat of opposition, they also trusted Asiwaju. They fought against the incursion of PDP into Lagos State. The people of Lagos fought against PDP. They never wanted PDP to come into Lagos State. And that is why Lagos has remained what it is today. And then guess what? Asiwaju has remained consistent to his principles and consistent to the ideals of his party, which has also given birth to the APC now. Don't forget that it is only Asiwaju, of all the contenders now, of all the presidential contenders, only him have never left his party in search of anything. It was AD and AD. AD changed his name to AC, to ACN, and then to APC. Atiku has jumped from one party to, in fact, when they pushed him to PDP, he ran to ACN to seek cover. He didn't see what he wanted. He ran back to PDP. He ran back to APC. He ran back to PDP, all in search of tickets. Obi ran from Apuga to PDP. And he don't see, and ran again to Labour. I mean, it just shows character. Look at these people now. Just look at them. Asiwaju has been consistent to his principles. Consistent. And let me tell you, there's no human being in Nigeria today standing on two legs that can claim that he has contributed more to making sure that Nigeria is not a one-party state than Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Other contributors are there, but he has about the greatest contribution to the fact that Nigeria today is not a one-party state. The story has been told over and over, but let me put it graphically to you, that in 2003, the PDP sought to wipe out the entire opposition from the entire southern Nigeria, and many parts of the north.
How is that?
At a point, PDP became 32 states or 30 states. Remember, 30 states of the Federation. They wiped everybody out.
No, you know that
in 2003.
You know that you cannot win Delta States.
Let me tell you.
You know that you cannot win Akwa Ibom State.
No, we are not going there.
That you cannot win River State.
No, we are not going there. I'm talking about in 2003 now, when PDP entered even the heartland of Yoruba and began to take states away from the Alliance for Democracy then. It was only Lagos that they did not enter. Now, listen. The point I'm making is that at that time, it would have been easy for anybody to collapse under the threat and the weight of the PDP, because it was only Asiwaju that was remaining standing at that time. The odd man out in the whole of the Southwest and most of the southern states, including South and Southeast, he was just standing alone as opposition. And so they did everything under the sun to lure Asiwaju to come to the PDP, hand him over all the structures, take over Lagos as you like. It was courage, it was vision, it was fidelity to his principles that made him remain in the AD at that time, which later transmitted to the AC and then the ACN. And from that point, he began to fight back. Imagine using a small platform like Lagos to fight the federal might, to fight the ruling party. And at some point, when he had gained enough ground, He stretched his hand across the Niger and met the General Buhari. And today, that is the birth of the APC that all of us can be proud of. That Nigerians can see that provided the alternative, a viable alternative to Nigerians, there would have not been an alternative at all in Nigeria today. It would have been only the PDP if Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu did not stand his ground with courage, with vision, with competency and capacity that he began to fight back to reclaim Nigeria from the hands of these marauders.
Will you agree to the belief by some people that Asiwaju was alienated from the APC in the past 4 years?
No, I don't believe so.
Why?
Because everybody knows, and this is not a matter to hide, that those who came from his own stock of ACN, they were as high as the vice presidency. He contributed to the vice presidency, which, Oshibajo. He had several ministers who came from his own stock to form the alliance called the APC.
Is that enough?
Who had the greatest ministry? Hold on. Who had the greatest portfolio?
But is that
in
enough?
2015? Hold on now. Let me see. Who had the greatest portfolio between 2015 and 2019? It was Raji Fashola. It was Fashola. Power, Works, Housing. Remember? That was from the stock of the ACN. If we are, because you brought up this issue, it's one APC now. It's one APC. But I am bringing all these issues to show that he made his own modest contribution to the government. I mean, the mouthpiece of the government in the last 8 years, who has it been? It's Lai Mohammed. I mean, that is the image of the government. The image of the government has been Asiwaju's own contribution to the APC, which is Lai Mohammed. So when you listen to these side talks, please ignore them. Nobody's complaining within the system, please.
Let me take you on the issue of ASU. You're a big player there. As Minister of State for Labor and Employment, you've had meetings with them, but why has the problem persisted for so long?
I won't go into that in this interview. I'll ask you to ask the Minister of Education. I'm a Minister of Labor, and as Labor, we are just conciliators. We've done our best to try to conciliate, and after some time, the Minister of Education took over because they are the employers of the teachers. Don't forget, we are not. So when they all point fingers at us, it's unfair. Okay, so it's the Minister of Education that will answer that question. I won't say anything on ASU here.
Since the minister is not forthcoming to answer those questions, perhaps it's a leadership problem as well.
So you want to change my portfolio?
No. Hold on. Now, people are concerned with students staying at home for this long. Some say that Asiwaju can solve the problem. I don't see how. Can you make me see it?
Let me tell you this, that every leader comes to government with his own ideas. So nobody is, for example, a robot to say you come into government and then you just do things the same way your predecessor has done it. Now, why did I say earlier that Asiwaju is APC and APC is Asiwaju? Because it's a party of progressive ideas. And what guides all of us is progressivism. Now, progressivism is when, for instance, you pay a lot of government attention to the middle class and the poor and direct intervention in their welfare. The other party, they always like a free market economy, okay? And they don't care what happens to the very poor or the middle class. Asiwaju has proven over and over that he's a problem solver. He has his own ideas. What he cannot do is to impose his own ideas on there's a sitting president, on the sitting president. But the same template of progressivism, he can come and implement it in his own style, like he has directly supervised Lagos. And that's why I said that, look at the educational sector in Lagos, the way he has also contributed to it, the way he has made it flourish also. And that makes me compare, I'll digress for 1 second, I'll come back to your question. That makes me compare it to what Atiku has done in Adamawa. As vice president, Atiku pursued a university license, which in any case was against the code of conduct and it was illegal, himself and his boss, Obasanjo. And then he went to build a very expensive university in Adamawa for only the elites. 3 million and above, that's what they pay there. Or 4 million and above, the American university. I'm saying this clearly, because this is a period where Nigerians have to make a choice. So I'm very clear about what I'm telling Nigerians. Asiwaju, on the other hand, instead of doing that and exploiting the people of Lagos State, what did he do about education? He rather converted 2 other schools, I think called Laspotech or the other, he converted and upgraded them to universities for the poor, public universities. And that's why you have 3 universities in Lagos State today, in order to clear the backlog of Lagosians and other students in Lagos who were seeking admission into school. I want people to look at these 2 critically and see the type of leaders they want to vote for. That is Asiwaju's own vision regarding education, to make it accessible to everyone. And so that people like me, who come from a poor home, we can have access to education. And that was the vision of Awolowo too, that he followed, of everybody having access to education. It's just to give you a glimpse. Our policy document is coming out, so I don't want to make a policy document, policy statement, or to even make a sneak preview of our manifesto. I just want you to see the kind of vision a person like an Asiwaju can have regarding education. He rather did not take advantage of the people of Lagos State. He could have established a university too at that time. He could have sought for a license. He had enough land to do it in Lagos. He had enough influence. He rather made 3 universities available, public. Meanwhile, Atiku was building a private one for himself. Everything Atiku does must be to his own benefit. Look at also in terms of their business acumen.
What has he
at
done
the same
to
time, no, hold on.
What has he done to his benefit?
At the same time, all the university, the American university, in the guise of providing education for people in Adamawa, he built an expensive university for profit. For profit. Meanwhile, Asiwaju was converting polytechnics, technical colleges to universities.
What about the privatization under his leadership as vice president?
Of course, we are coming to that. Don't even leave me on. I'm talking of even the business acumen. Some say, oh, Atiku has been a businessman. It's to tell you that Asiwaju towers above him in every sector.
Even in business?
I'm coming to that. Yes, even in business. I'm going to come to that. At the same time, let me give you one small example of where the fact that, for the fact that Atiku cannot even come close to Asiwaju in terms of business acumen. At the same time, these 2 gentlemen got licenses for radio, for television. At the same time. In fact, I think it's GoTech TV in Adamawa State. GoTel. Asiwaju, Atiku got his license a year before Asiwaju. It was just a year apart. The names were almost the same before Asiwaju changed his own to TVC. I think it's TVC, right? Yes, TVC. Look at both institutions, both companies today. The GoTel is almost run down. They are owing 18-month salary, poor content, poor management, poor everything has almost totally collapsed that TV station. Look at TVC today is an international brand. TVC today is an international brand. And somebody wants to compare their business acumen. I heard one of their comic spokesman the other day, one that was always used to comedy. He said the other day that Asiwaju has not done anything, became a billionaire. Atiku has been a businessman, became a billionaire. Let me address that directly. Atiku did no other thing but he served in customs. He retired as a public officer in customs and became a billionaire as a public officer, a civil servant, I mean. Asiwaju worked in Deloitte, Otto Anderson, Mobile as a chief executive, other great, auditing firms in the world. That he worked. At the same time, he was making deft investments when he worked in these big companies all over the world. He was making deft in personal investments. Atiku had no right to make any investment as a civil servant, except to engage in farming.
He has no rights. Why?
No, because that's what the Code of Conduct says. You have no right. That is the law. But as a customs officer, he confessed himself that he was involved in investing in intels, in all these big companies, breaching the law, and came out using his position to enrich himself. And somebody comes to open his mouth to tell us that one of them is a successful businessman. Amongst these 2 now, look at the history I just traced. Who should be a billionaire? Who? Is he a civil servant? that worked in customs, or somebody that worked in the best international firms and retired
Are you saying
with
that
glory?
you cannot
I am saying this too.
aspire to become a billionaire from just your normal business, even as a
You
civil
cannot
servant?
aspire to be a billionaire. Let me say it
And become one.
in black and white as a civil servant. If you want, come out of the system, because it is a recipe to steal public funds, except you inherited billions from your father.
Are you saying that
I'm saying that
he stole
categorically.
money from the government?
I am saying that categorically. You can go and interpret it the way you like, but everybody in Nigeria understands what I'm saying. That you cannot come out as a civil servant and be a billionaire. You cannot. Like the Godfather said, if you read the Marupuzo said, behind every great and sudden wealth, there is a crime. Go and read Marupuzo. He said so. Behind every great and sudden wealth, you come out of customs overnight, you are a billionaire, you went straight to the PD. Before long, you went straight to the SDP. That's when he joined the SDP and went to the SDP convention and came third as a billionaire under the Yaradwa's group. So Nigerians should ask questions about all of this. And that now brings me to the private side you talk about it. On the only thing he was given to supervise under Obasanjo. And in any case, under Obasanjo, you can see that there's a huge contradiction in what they are doing. You fought your boss from day one to the last day. He virtually pushed you out of government. At a point, they expelled him from the PDP. At a point, they wanted to declare his seat as vice president vacant. You remember? And people went to court for it. He went to court for it, that you cannot lose your seat as vice president when you change your party. Okay? Now, from day one to the end, you were the most belligerent vice president in the history of Nigeria, the most disobedient, the most rascal, the most, disobedient. He undermined his boss from day one to the end. I am not saying so. Obasanjo said so, that this is the greatest mistake I made in my life. And at the same time, you turn around before Nigerians to claim credit for that government. It doesn't make any sense. Because the only record he has to rely on, he will say Obasanjo Atiku. But we know that it was not an Obasanjo Atiku. We know it was an Obasanjo's government. We know you were pushed out of the government. We know you were an outsider. We know you contributed nothing. The only thing you were given, the only task, was the task to supervise privatization, and ended up a fiasco. I did not say so. It was the Senate committee report that said so. 2011, go and read it. That he ended up selling the public companies to his cronies. And his friends at pittance, public funds, public institutions. And then look at the character. It tells you the character of the person involved. I am saying this, I'm making all of these submissions with a heavy, duty on my shoulders. We are about to make a critical decision in our national life. This is a man that cannot be trusted by Nigerians. Every decision he has made, everything has been very questionable. Now, look at somebody who says he wants to unify Nigerians. I just want to see his sense of judgment. Look at what is happening in the PDP. Look at the way it has become a theater of a fight between grandfathers and grandchildren. The grandchildren from Port Harcourt axis and the grandfathers from Abuja and Adamawa axis. It is just a mess. And then it is a microcosm of what will happen in the type of government that they seek to form. The kind of chaos that they want to bring to Nigeria. That is it. I want to also compare it to the type of decisions Asiwaju has made. We had our own problems. Don't forget that. APC. You must always have your internal wrangling. But as the presidential candidate, just look at the deft way Asiwaju has handled everything, including our leader, President Muhammad Buhari. They have managed the APC so well. Everything has been calm on the front, on the APC front. All kinds of horse trading and discussions are going on behind. We have managed our affairs. We can manage Nigeria in such a way. I heard one of them, one character. He came and said that Asiwaju made a mistake to appoint Lalong. I'm sure you heard that. Asiwaju made a mistake to appoint Keyamo. And I said, hey, Jesus Christ. These are the people who want to unify Nigeria. They are teaching Asiwaju what to do within his party and how to unify his party. They are teaching a tactician how to In the APC, many APC members, they had their different choices during primaries. But if you notice that APC was very careful, people did not make incendiary comments about other aspirants, because all the aspirants were very capable to run this country.
Including Atiku?
No, I mean the aspirants within the APC.
Okay.
Follow my argument. The
Yes.
aspirants within the APC. I mean, during the APC primaries, I said we were careful not to make incendiary comments against each other because we knew it was a family affair.
If it's a family affair,
That
do you
is
think
why-
they're being carried along today?
No, hold on now. That is why you can see that it was easier to manage the post-primary issues, which was easy. It's easy for APC because we have not burnt bridges.
Did you succeed in it?
Of course we are now. We're not succeeding now. Look at the appointments that Asiwaju has made. Like I said, he has not even picked people from the stock of those who openly supported him. It's to tell you the kind of unifier he is. He's such a leader that he looks for competence, capacity. He doesn't care, whether you were in this camp or that camp or that camp. And that is the kind of father figure he presents today in the APC, and that is the kind of respect that he commands. It's the kind of respect he commands. He doesn't tell his camp like look at the Atiku people. Look at what is happening. The first thing you do, you make some few appointments. The first thing is so only thugs who were following you. That's where you appoint them into critical positions without looking at the broader PDP to make critical appointments. It's to tell you the kind of sense these two people have.
You mean members, not thugs?
Well, I mean, I've not called any name. I've not called any names. But that's exactly the kind of judgment that these two leaders can make. And then one person will sit there in one character and open his mouth. So it's such a... In fact, the day they were saying that, we were in Asiwaju's office. We were rolling on... We were laughing at him. We were rolling on the floor and laughing. I said, look at somebody. The kind of people that Atiku has surrounded himself with. People that are filled with bitterness and rage and hate. That because you don't support somebody during a primaries, don't bring the person near you. That is the kind of language that they speak to Atiku now. That's the kind of thing that is destroying PDP. And they want to bring it to APC. They want to tell Asiwaju who to appoint, who not to appoint, because somebody during primary was not vocal in support of you or not. And they now tell lies. In order to break our ranks, they tell lies that some people were promoting some ideas. Go and Google whether anybody said anything against Asiwaju during primaries. We were all very careful with our language because we knew that a post-primary period will come to manage these issues. And so everybody was careful about the way they spoke against other aspirants. Many people kept their peace. They kept it calm and they allowed the delegates to choose. And after that, because Asiwaju towered about everybody, we all surrounded Asiwaju and we are ready to deliver him. And all of us, as I speak with you, including most of the aspirants, I can speak to most aspirants, they are Baptists. We call Baptists, those who support Asiwaju. They are Baptists to the core. All of us, we are Baptists to the core. And as from now on, it is Asiwaju, and it's Asiwaju, and we are proud to do so. Stay in your lane, PDP. Don't come and teach us who to pick, who not to appoint or not to appoint. They are scared.
I believe they are not trying to teach you or anything.
Yeah, but they are trying to teach now.
What should Nigerians look forward to if perhaps we have a Tinubu presidency in 2023? These are some of the issues that Nigerians are concerned about. Subsidy payment, tax policy with Nigerians, parallel market exchange rates, food prices, climate change, drying up the Chad Basin, believed to be a fueler of insecurity.
The manifesto, many of us have made our contributions. I've made my contribution to the manifesto. Asiwaju has consulted widely. He has always been ready with the manifesto. He has always been ready to be president for many years. But because of dynamics of the changing society and the new issues, we are tinkering with the document again. That document is right now in the kitchen. It's in the cooking pot. We are just fine-tuning it. So those issues you have just asked about, they are very critical issues that will emerge in the manifesto. I just want you to hold your breath a bit, hold your gunpowder. We are going to release the manifesto big time to Nigerians. And Nigerians will see that we have a president and a vice president, most likely to be, who are the best for Nigeria at this time, the most competent, the most innovative. I can assure you that in the Tinubu and Shettima presidency, you are going to have one of the best combinations we have had over the years. Don't forget that two of them are financial experts. I hope you know that. One is a world-renowned chartered accountant, and the other one is also one of the smartest bankers this country has ever produced. Both with executive experience, both with legislative experience, both with people, those who don't suffer fools gladly around them, because they choose the most competent people around them. Why? Because they can match everybody width for width. Anybody around them. They're not afraid of intellectuals around them. If you see where we debate, at times we are awed by their intelligence. All of us, the young talks around them, we are awed by their brilliance. We just sit down and listen. We can only learn. They are not afraid of people around them. That is what Nigerians are about to experience. Not those who come. You see, the thing we see these days is that the younger ones are always sucked in by the aesthetics, by oratory, by looks. Oh, they want somebody with a swagger in his walks, with some smooth speech, some good looks, some all kinds of things, smart dressing and all that. That does not make a good leader. Oh. Let us want them. Our candidates are smart also. They are good looking, they are smart. But look, that does not make a good leader. They should look at their records.
Like in 2015.
They should look at their records.
Like in 2015, when Nigerians got tired of the PDP. Do you think you risk Nigerians being tired of the APC today?
We don't. We are conscious of that, and we are also conscious of the fact that we have to educate Nigerians that we have done our best in the circumstance. So we are not going to take Nigerians for granted. I'm not going to answer that question by dismissing Nigerians. No, I will not. I will not fall into that trap. Nigerians are the most important people in this election. So my answer to that question is that even for some of those who may not have understood exactly what we have done, we are going to use the next few months to continue to educate them, to continue to preach to them, to continue to tell them that we have done our best under the circumstance. We're also going to let those who do not know Asiwaju as a person and what he had done, his records, we are going to continue to appeal and push the ideas to them and sell him to them. They are the most important. So that we don't run the risk of the arrogance of PDP of 2015. There was an element of arrogance of PDP in 2015 too. We don't want to fall into that, lane of that bubble of arrogance of the PDP in 2015. So we are going to humbly preach to Nigerians. But before the opposition, we are going to be aggressive. And so when you hear aggressiveness in our tone, at times the spokespersons and all that, this is to the opposition, not to Nigerians. We're only addressing the opposition and their attempt to deceive Nigerians. That is why we're aggressive at times in the way we present our message, because of the opposition. But to Nigerians, we are going to be gentle as a dove. We know their power and their power to make the right choice.
That's a good place to let it rest. Spokesperson, APC presidential campaign for Tinubu as well as Shettima. We do sincerely thank you for talking to us here on Front Row Politics.
God bless you. Thank you so much.